fact that you did see a large percentage of Black male content creators bigging her up. This is just my opinion, but I think the fact that you saw a big percentage of Black male content creators bigging her up, I think for some of us it was kind of like salt on a wound, because there's already this dissension and there's already this, this tension that exists of different Black men openly expressing online and in different platforms that they are expanding their options. They are going abroad. I mean, you do have some Black men online, don't get it twisted, who very much promote self-hating or promote disparaging things about Black women. Let's just get it clear, that does exist. And so I think now that you had a Black woman, or you had a white woman come in, and we're seeing different well-respected voices, if not promote her, at least talk about her, MTR, O'Shea Duke Jackson, the lead attorney, just different people talking about her. I feel like for some of us, it could be like a bit of a salt of a wound. It's like, why is this white woman getting praise and she's getting all the support? And it seems like I'm tuning in these different channels and I just keep on hearing how I'm doing bad, or why people are trying to leave to not marry me, or why they have to go abroad. And so I think there was some of that going on. I don't know if it was conscious or subconscious, but I think already the fact that you had a lot of Black men going and supporting this white woman at the same time that BFF, right? Or at the same time that the promotion of Black American women not being marriageable options is going on, was like salt to a wound.
What's up, my authentic fam? Welcome back, guys. Tonight, I want to do a little response to some comments made by the sister Shez, hopefully I'm saying her name right, about Miss Pearly things.
It was like painful.
So let me start off by saying, first of all, I like the sister Shez. I like her content. Well, I should say I like her goal or where she's coming from, right? I can appreciate it. So nothing but love with that.
In the 60s, white women started to court Black women, Chicano women, Native American women. They, especially by the time you get to second wave feminism, they were really trying to transition this feminism from a middle-class white woman thing to a universal sisterhood thing. But it's a universal sister, and I'm not telling you nothing you don't know. It's a universal sisterhood as long as you follow white women's precepts. As long as if you're Black, you're brown, whatever it is, as long as you follow what white women want, you're a part of the sisterhood. If you don't, you're ignored. And within the Black community, you're pick me or whatever it is.
Yeah.
As long as you follow the narrative, that's the feminist leaning. And white women offered baubles. They offered, gifts. If you follow us, there are white collar jobs this way. There's welfare support this way. There's policy that positions you underneath us as white women, but you will get some benefits that you won't get messing around with him, you're Black male. Those kinds of seductive tactics were used, and I think they became part and parcel to Black women's whole worldview about politics. I mean, going back to what I said earlier about the safety net, Black women learned there was a whole new safety net under white feminism, at least in terms of policy.
But Shed said about Pearly things that I take some issue with.
The very fact that you did see a large percentage of Black male content creators bigging her up. This is just my opinion, but I think the fact that you saw a big percentage of Black male content creators bigging her up, I think for some of us it was kind of like salt on a wound, because there's already this dissension and there's already this this tension that exists of different Black men openly expressing online and in different platforms that they are expanding their options. They are going abroad. I mean, you do have some Black men online, don't get it twisted, who very much promote self-hating or promote disparaging things about Black women. Let's just get it clear, that does exist. And so I think now that you had a Black woman, or you had a white woman come in, and we're seeing different well-respected voices, if not promote her, or at least talk about her, MTR, O'Shea Duke Jackson, the lead attorney, just different people talking about her. I feel like for some of us, it could be like a bit of a salt of a wound. It's like, why is this white woman getting praise and she's getting all the support? And it seems like I'm tuning in these different channels and I just keep on hearing how I'm doing bad, or why people are trying to leave to not.
All right, let me stop that right there before she gets into the meat of it. You see how she just said, why? ... I love that little short moment when women actually say the right thing and ask the right question. but then they abruptly move on to their like nonsensical way of thinking, their emotional rationale. They move to that immediately. So she, for one moment, she asked the right question. Why? That is the right question. It's a valid question. That's what you need to find the answer to. But she didn't. She didn't stop and ponder the why, do some research, investigate, and figure it out. And that's what I'm going to answer in this video, is the why. Because as much as I like her and where she's coming from, in my opinion, she got this entire situation wrong. It's riddled with misconceptions. From the beginning to the end, it's all misconception. Wrong. She misinterpreted all of this. And this is not her as an individual. This is what black women, hold on guys, women in general do. But this particular video, we're talking about black women. But I always have to say that because this isn't like a black woman thing majority of the time. This is just women in general, but black women have a unique circumstance because they are black women in Western countries. But women in general make these mistakes. They just make them with different topics and different issues and different situations. But they still have this emotional way of thinking that it almost blocks them from getting the correct information, asking the correct questions so that they can come to the correct conclusions so that they can find the proper solution and result, right? They don't get there because they just get hung up in how it makes them feel, which is exactly what she's doing. And then when they get hung up in the how they feel, that's victimhood. And then with the victimhood comes, it's somebody else's fault. And that's why they don't get anywhere with these situations.
Marry me or why they have to go abroad. And so I think there was some of that going on. I don't know if it was conscious or subconscious, but I think already the fact that you had a lot of black men going in supporting this white woman at the same time that BFF, right? Or at the same time that the promotion of black American women not being marriageable options is going on was like salt to the wound. It was like painful. And I heard it again in the audio I'm going to play in a few minutes when the caller called in to Brother Omwali, and she was like, I don't even like being a black woman because I go online and I go in these different spaces and everybody is telling me how bad I am. And it was sad to hear that, but I was so grateful for her being honest because I think this is how a lot of black women feel.
Yeah, man, it's just way too much feelings, man. The feelings is really, really hurting these women, bro. Which is why women need a man. This is why women need a man. They need a daddy, they need a big brother, they need an uncle, and they need a husband. They need men around them to stop them when they're going down this path because it spirals. It's like, oh, I don't like that feeling. And then they dwell on it and then the feeling gets worse. And then it's like the worser they feel about it is the less they're using their intelligence to break this down. So I got some notes here. I'm going to go over it in a second, but I do want to keep stopping it and interjecting for a couple of reasons. But you see how she's like making this so-called support. First of all, she's calling it support. It's not necessarily support. She's making this support for Pearl a race issue, and she doesn't realize that it's not a race issue. Just like when black women see a guy that they find attractive, that they would like, with a non-black woman, they make it a race issue, and it is not a race issue. I'm gonna get into it. This is how a lot of black women feel. And so again, you have a white woman coming to this space, and it wasn't like she was going and like running rings around different dudes. And so again, you have a white woman coming to this space, and it wasn't like she was going and like running rings around different dudes. Like it wasn't like she was dropping all this knowledge that we haven't heard before. It's just that she got celebrated for doing it. And I think, again, for black women too, that was like, hold up. Let's get into this shit. I love you, sis, but we're gonna get into this because you got all of this wrong. I like how she said why, and I like how she said that's how a lot of black women feel. Because those are only two things that she got right in that whole 2.5 minute clip. Yes, you should be asking why, and you should ask why until you get the adequate answer why. All right, the next thing is, yes, that's how black women feel. It's not what it actually is. That's what they feel that it is. And it's easier for them to convince themselves that it's some kind of race thing than it's something else that's actually under their control. It's just like when overweight people want to blame it on their genetics, because that would mean it's not my fault because I don't have any control over my genetics. Black women are always trying to blame on being black. It's not on being black. And I'm going to show you how it's not that in many different fucking ways. I hope every sister is listening, not because I really care, but because I care, all right? What I mean is I don't care as an individual. I'm doing good in the dating market. I'm saying I care as in out of, sisterhood or whatever. For the sisters, I care, all right? Don't make me never mind. Black women figure out how to come around and break all of this conditioning, because at the end of the day, black women are victims. They're victims of their own decisions, but more so they're victims of the brainwashing and the conditioning and the self-destruction. So I will say that this is something that the elites implanted in the black community a long time ago. It just affects black women more than black men because they're more emotional, right? They're more susceptible to emotions, right? All right, so I have a few things here that I want to address, and I hope this is going to help Shez and all the other sisters get a better perspective on this. Probably isn't, but I'm going to give it a try, guys, all right? All right. So the first thing I want to point out, right, is that she's basically talking from feelings. We know that, but what are the feelings? Jealousy, envy, rejection, stuff like that, right? That's the feelings that she's coming from, and she said as much, okay? So the first thing that I was pointing out in the first clip is that black women are constantly asking and expecting black men to do things and make concessions that they themselves wouldn't make, which is one of the biggest things that's wrong with the so-called black community, is that if you look at people from everywhere else, they're willing to make compromises and concessions for people that look like them, or I shouldn't even say look like them, people that share the culture, right? Korean people would do certain things for Korean people they would not do for any other type of people. Japanese, Chinese, Indian, whatever. Basically everyone else besides black people will make all kind of adjustments and changes and special treatment for their own people. Whereas black people, it's literally the opposite. Black people will kiss on some white person's ass, but then they'll treat another black person like trash. That's just what it is, bro. That's the experience, right? So that's the self-hatred right there. As far as her saying some guys get on the internet and have some kind of self-hate, so I guess when black men say negative things about black women, somehow that's a self-hate issue or reflection. But how is it that when black women, who do far more of it, are talking badly about black men, that's also not self-hatred? Double standards all over the place, hypocrisy all over the place, right? All right. What I want her to understand about this whole Pearl situation, number one, I like Pearl a lot. We've had multiple conversations. I've spoken to Pearl long before she blew up how she is, up until now. So I myself had to contact Pearl and give her props, or big her up, as she said, basically give her praises on how she's been handling these recent interviews. I've also spoken to every content creator that she mentioned. Like the guys she's talking about, I've spoken to all of those guys. So I'm gonna speak on this from an inside perspective, okay? Because technically I'm one of those guys she's talking about. It's not coming from a place of praise. So, because of her race. So we're not praising Pearl because of preference for white women. We're praising Pearl because of her performance, right? Make all those P's sink in for a second. Black women, stop being so stuck on color vision. If you break down the situation with Pearl in these recent interviews, what these guys are responding to is the way she handled herself as a content creator and a debater, all right? She obliterated a black man, but she did it still being in her feminine. She did it while still being respectful, even though he wasn't. She had all her points together, right? She had her debater's hat on, basically. She was being very cordial, but yet still debating, right? So what guys are praising her for is the way she handled those interviews, the way she handled those situations. Now, okay, the reason why black female content creators aren't getting that praise is because they're not handling themselves the same way in these debates. The Lapeef Network is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Now, from my understanding, Pearl's been on there. I didn't like watch those episodes because I already told you how I feel about trying to watch that show. And I'm sure those black women weren't letting her talk. I'm sure those black women were cutting her off. I'm sure those black women being very aggressive and very disrespectful. I'm pretty damn sure. I didn't even watch it, but my guess, my money is on they weren't treating Pearl very fairly on there. But because that exists, you can go on there and see how Pearl was probably handling the debate between black men and see how the black women were talking to the black men. Now, why does this transcend past debating or being a content creator? Because that's the exact type of energy that black men get when they're dating black women. Ding, ding, ding. So this brings me back to what I was saying earlier. Praising Pearl wasn't about her being white. It was about the way she handles herself as a content creator. And when you see a lot of black guys with non-black women, it's not because they're not black women in the sense of their color, how they look. It's because their behavior is different towards the man. Their behavior is different in the relationship. They're more pleasant to be around. They're more respectful. They're more appreciative. They actually value that masculine energy. They appreciate the dude being there and they let him know that. It's not fucking pulling teeth to hang out with them. That's why you see guys with non-black women. It's not always their color. Most times it's not their color. But black women run to that because, like I said earlier, it's a scapegoat because it means it's not their fault. And then they can start attacking the guy and saying things like, oh, he hates himself. He hates his mom. He hates his own black skin. And but there's no proof of any of those things. There's no proof. All we know is that he prefers to be with this non-black woman. That's all we know. And my guess would be because he's probably treated better by her, like, duh, okay? So that's what that is, Shez, okay? Because when I was hitting Pearl up, but me liking Pearl and liking her content has absolutely nothing to do with the color of her skin. It's because of the way she deals with the topics, where she's coming from, and how she handles these interactions. I admire it, I like it, I think she's doing a great job. And Pearl is also always trying to learn. She's always trying to get better, and she's always trying to see what other people are doing that works for them and learn from them. This is something you don't see a lot of black women willing to do. Pearl is also very humble. Black women, they almost never want to humble themselves. I don't see it. I don't ever see them humbling themselves. In fact, they're strong, independent women that don't even need the fathers of their children to help them raise their kids, but they gonna need them police to help discipline their kids when their kids become teenagers. You see how that works? They so strong, they can't even admit that they need help with anything. Right? So that's where guys are coming from. All the guys that she named, I ain't gonna name those same guys, but I speak to those guys, and that's where they're coming from with giving Pearl her props. So I also do want to mention people like Six the Goddess.
The white women are like throwing a fit because their men are oppressing them. Not only that, 9 times out of 10, she has a father that she's getting an inheritance from. They has a life insurance policy. No matter what, she can throw men away. She's still going to be set. She has the police to protect.
I want to mention black female content creators like Chantel Simone.
How dumb do you have to be begging somebody to do something, begging people to join your movement, to help save the community, but you're disrespecting them at the same time? How little do you have to think of the person that you're begging for a favor, so-called quote-unquote favor, but disrespecting them at the same time? That's how little you think of black men, and that's how little respect you have for black men.
That I've always been a big fan of, and they're not white, okay? But they are also tackling certain issues. They also are using logic and rationale, and they also are very respectful when debating with men. Men are allowed to disagree with them. And they're also willing to ask questions and understand where the guy is coming from. They actually listen to what men are saying to try to get a better understanding. And then they try to bring that information to women and say, hey, this is what the guys are saying. This is what the guys are going through. And this is why we're not getting along. Very few black female content creators are operating like that. And almost no black women in society are operating like that, or such a small amount that they almost don't exist. Because I'm not saying all in that sense. I'm saying the vast majority. All right? So that's a couple of things that I wanted to clear the air with real quick, because I think sis, you misconstrued those things. It's not what you're thinking. And again, I do like your channel. I do like your content. I do like your tone. I like your energy, and I like where you're coming from. Maybe you should reach out to these content creators yourself and asked them, what's up with this Pearl situation? I felt a way about it. These black men are approachable, and maybe that's how you need to get on their radar and get the support that you feel you deserve as a black woman. And I agree that you should be getting that support from male content creators. I think the black manosphere or the black YouTube or whatever is garbage because they're not getting along with each other. What's the point of black people segregating themselves and having their own corner of something if all they're gonna do is infight in that corner? It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. So you don't want white people to segregate you, but then you segregate yourself only to fight amongst each other. Why don't you segregate yourself to make yourself stronger by working together? I don't know, crazy thought, right? Crazy thought. But anyhow, next thing I wanted to touch on. Now, when we say, because she said in there that she sees on the internet all this content basically saying that black women are undateable. All right, we got to get the dictionary out here for a second, guys, because this is another thing that really irritates me about black women complaining about black men leaving America or whatever to date other women, right? Hold on, we got to get this straight. When we're talking about black, we're talking about English-speaking melanated people, all right? And this is very fucking important that we get this through to black women, because when these guys are leaving to go to these other countries, overwhelmingly, they're going to countries with dark-skinned women for those dark-skinned women. They're going to Brazil and getting women that are my complexion and darker. They're going to DR, getting brown, dark-skinned women. They're getting Panamanian women. They're getting dark-skinned Mexican women. So what are black women even saying right now? None of their arguments make any sense. These men aren't even avoiding dark skin. They're avoiding that dark mentality. They're avoiding that dark attitude. They're avoiding that neglect, that disrespect. It's fucking terrible. Black women are the worst when it comes to how they speak to and treat their own men. They're the worst when it comes to how they treat their own children, their own brothers, their own uncles. I'm sorry, they're the worst. Okay? And it's funny when you hear black women talking about rebuilding and repairing the community when they're getting the most abortions, they're having the most babies out of wedlock, and they're the ones that talk the worst about their men and cooperate the least. It's just a little strange. So I will say this, damn what people say, by their fruits we will know them. So it doesn't matter what women say of any race, it matters about their actions. And when you look at the actions of black women, if you were a mute and you couldn't hear, I'm not gonna make fun of deaf people because then they're gonna take my damn channel down, but you guys know what I'm saying. If you was a mute, you couldn't talk, and you were deaf, you couldn't hear, all you could do is observe, right? You would not get the idea that black women love black men, appreciate black men, and want to work with or cooperate with them. That's not the assumption you would come to, right? So I did want to say that, is that when we're talking about black, we're talking about in Western English-speaking countries where they put that way of thinking on you. And also, when these guys leave, majority of the time, they're going for dark women anyway. Now, she mentioned the passport bros. What I would say about this passport bros thing is that the passport bros, they didn't discover shit. What the passport bros did was they rediscovered something that black men that have been fortunate enough to travel always knew. They just didn't have the means or the motivation to share it. What am I talking about? Bro, you can go way back to the early 1900s. There were always black men traveling for work, traveling for the military or whatever, and a lot of them didn't come back. Why? Because they realized they were treated a hell of a lot better in other countries and other cultures by the women. Now, very important, by the women. That part's very important. I'm gonna tell you why. They were not treated better by the community, the culture, the country. They weren't treated better. You think black men that went to the military and were stationed in Germany, you think they were treated better in Belgium than they were in America? Hell no, they were treated terribly. But a lot of them chose to stay and marry German women and have mixed children. So the women treated them that much better that they were willing to deal with a society that actually hated them to still be with that woman. That shouldn't surprise anybody, because men will do almost anything for the love of a woman, or just for access to a woman sexually. Men will do almost anything. So that right there tells you how much men are willing to compromise and make it work and figure it out. So if black men are ready to give up on black women in the West, it's really done. It's really done if it's to that point, because they will go to Japan, China, or whatever and get treated horribly by the entire country just to be with one woman that treats them like a king. All I'm doing is spitting facts like I always do over here. All right? So I wanted to point that out about the passport bros, because everybody's acting like, oh wow, passport bros, we're traveling, get your passport. Bro, there's nothing fucking new. You go to Germany, this whole area is like in Belgium where there's nothing but light-skinned mixed people because of so many black American soldiers coming over there and impregnating those women. And there's plenty of places in the world that are like that, where there's whole communities of half American black and half whatever the hell they are, children. Because black men have been doing this for decades. But now we have the internet, so we can share this information with one another and tell guys, stop wasting your time. I stopped 10, 15 years ago trying to explain to brothers, stop wasting your time struggling with these black women. Not because I'm over here hating black women and encouraging guys not to date them, because I'm tired of hearing guys complain about the experience. And I'm over here like, dude, I don't experience any of that. I can't relate to that because I stopped trying to deal with those type of women a long time ago. Why don't you see what's up with all these other chicks? And the most common response I would get is, I don't even know how to talk to a white girl. I don't even know how to talk to a Spanish girl. Yeah, so it's lack of experience and lack of proximity why a lot of black guys have no idea what it's like to date non-black. But when they find that out, the same way the black men that traveled found out, oh snap, it's completely different over here. I'm never going back. I'm never going back to the States, right? That's what happens when a lot of black guys finally, for whatever reason, date a chick that's not black. They realize, damn, all this time I could have been doing this instead of being stressed out trying to deal with sisters. It's a really difficult experience. And again, I don't want any women to comment on it. I want them to just shut up and listen. You can't comment on it because you're not a guy. You haven't dated black women. If you're a woman, you don't know. You don't know. All right. A lot of guys is fed up with that experience, right? All right. So I mentioned how black women already have a prejudice towards black men. When I was a kid, my mother used to always tell me, go where you're wanted. If certain kids don't want to play with you, you got no business over there. So if black women basically tell black men, it's not even like it's just an energy or the way they behave. They straight up tell them how they feel about them. So if black women like you the least and treat you the worst, why play ball? Take your ball and go home, bro. Take your ball and go somewhere else. Go to another court where they actually celebrate you for that. That's the irony, is that black women, they already treat you poorly and have a low expectation for you because you're black. But then when you go somewhere else, they actually like you because you're black. So again, I don't expect any women to relate to it because you can't, you're a woman. But for a guy, it's like, what is he supposed to do? So he's supposed to keep going where he's treated like he's not wanted? Strange. A lot of black guys have told me they don't even want to go to family events because they don't like how their black female relatives treat them. But, you know, they kind of got to make an appearance because it's family. Imagine when it's dating. Dating, you have a choice. You can choose who you do and don't want to interact with. So they avoid it altogether. Just like there's people that I'd rather do self-checkout than deal with a black cashier because they don't want to deal with the attitude, right? I'm just saying, guys. Make it make sense, right? Another thing on here I wanted to talk about is black women put the least effort in to dealing with black men. Other women will do so much more. So they'll meet the guy more than halfway. And then what black women would do is they'll try to shame them for that or act like somehow there's something wrong with the women because they're willing to be more attentive. They're willing to try to appease the guy. They're willing to try to cater to the guy. They'll sit there and act like that's somehow a bad quality on the woman's behalf. Again, make it make sense, right? So we already know that non-black women value black men a lot more for whatever reasons. It is what it is, right? So yeah, man, so I'm just gonna leave it right here, man. It's too late for English-speaking black women on the collective. Maybe not on the individual scale. And I tell black women all the time, whenever we're having these discussions, like one-on-one or whatever, I always tell black women, it's actually really not that hard for you because black women are so, what's the word? They're so undesirable collectively, their behavior traits, that it actually in a weird way, actually gives a black woman an advantage if she's willing to just operate outside of that stigma. So this is what I try to tell them. If you're willing to be more pleasant, if you're willing to cut off communication with negative black women and only surround yourself with the most positive black women that are going to be appreciative and respectful of black men, you would have a shot, bro. You can get and keep a black man if you're going to act right. But again, it's a choice, and a lot of black women are not willing to do it. They're not willing to tone themselves down. They're not willing to put some respect on it. They're not willing to do any of these things, bro. They're not willing to do it. But at the same time, they'll sit here and complain that the black men that they're interested in, and I gotta keep saying that because I'm tired of black women acting like all black men don't mess with black women. That's bullshit. 80-something% of black men mess with black women. Stop it. But the ones that they are complaining aren't playing ball, they're not willing to do what it would take to keep that guy around, but yet they complain that guy doesn't want to be around. Like, I don't know, man. It just doesn't make any damn sense to me. But like I said, on the individual scale, there's a lot that can be done for the black women that still, want to get with a black man or whatever. But collectively, it's a wrap. All right? I have no faith in there being any type of repair between the black male and female. It's going to continue to go downhill. The elites have done an amazing job of separating the black woman from the black man, getting the black man out of there, and getting the black woman dependent on the system, dependent on grandpa government or whatever you want to call it. They put all of their faith and admiration, whatever the hell you want to call it, in the system, nothing in the men. So that's how, as far as how I see that. And they're actively working on separating all women from all men, because that's what's coming next. The elites aren't operating on a race thing, bro. They're not. It has nothing to do with race with them. It's just complete domination. We've played into their hand. Black women have played into their hand. You took the bait. Like I said, you supported the color purples. You supported the waiting to exhale. You supported the WAP. You supported everything that was self-destructive to the relationship between the black woman and the black man, far more than the black man has. So I'm not saying the black man is like, innocent, like we didn't feed into a lot of the conditioning we did, but not to the scale that women have. And it's just now recently black men are finally saying, and it's not even all black men, it's just some that have money and a fucking passport are saying, yo, I'm out of here. And black women, just like most women or all women, have this really bad habit of gauging their life and their decisions based on what celebrities are doing. How well they're doing in life, they base it on what celebrities are doing. What they want to do, they base it on celebrities. What's acceptable, not acceptable, what's trending, whatever. Everything's what the celebrities are doing. So because you see the black men that are in some limelight are usually almost never with a black woman. And when they are, they don't get noticed because that doesn't count. Oh, black man, successful, famous black man married to a black woman, that doesn't count. I'm only going to cherry pick the ones that are dating white women so I can complain about it. Anyhow, they keep acting like that's the standard, but in real life, most black men are still with black women. But anyhow, you're not letting these black men raise their kids. You're not letting them have any authority over the woman, over the child, over the community. But now you're complaining that those same black men are up out of here. I was having a podcast stream just last night. I was saying to the ladies, have you ever occurred to you that men do not like or are not comfortable in a relationship where they have no authority, where they have no power? Like, what guy wants to deal with that? And you got some guys that go to work and they're the boss, and then they got to come home and they got to deal with their chick, and it's like, that's ridiculous. You have authority over other men, but you have no authority over your woman or your kids. It's a little ass backwards. But anyway, guys, let's enjoy Black Panther. Some more, programming. So let's go enjoy Woman King. Let's go enjoy some more of this entertainment provided by the elites that tell black women that they don't need us, so that those same black women can go on to suffer without us. Make it make sense. But I tell you right now, the second Black Panther is about to do a couple billion just like the first one. There's already black people rushing out there with all this with all this generic pride, all this fabricated pride. It's a fucking movie, for God's sakes. I'm out of here, man. Peace.